Yeah, definitely. I think over the past 5 years, since the Bernie Sanders launched domestically, there's been obviously a groundswell of support for progressive democratic socialist policy. I'm wondering if you could talk about where that intersects with the party policy that you're proposing and where it diverges.
Well, I think, first of all, actually, in relationship to the first question about the popularity of socialism, I mean, I think that there's growing support for socialism. It's not really a
Absolutely.
dirty word anymore. It's people sort of see the reality of capitalism, and there is support for socialism, and that has been expressed in the campaign of Sanders, for example, or the support for the campaign of Sanders. The Socialist Equality Party has has been opposed to the Sanders campaign from the beginning, both in 2016 and 2020, because we explained that the basic role of Sanders, or for that matter, Ocasio-Cortez, the DSA as a whole, has been to channel massive social anger and opposition to inequality and to capitalism into the Democratic Party, which is a political dead end. And Sanders now is a leading cheerleader for the Biden campaign, as he was in 2016 with Clinton. So I would distinguish very much our politics from those of the periphery of the Democratic Party, because the basic political question for workers and young people who are being radicalized are looking for a way to fight against capitalism is to break with bourgeois politics as a whole, and particularly in the United States with the Democratic Party, the graveyard of all social movements, a right-wing party of Wall Street and the military that postures as a party which is somehow concerned with the interests of working people when it's not. And that's been the great Achilles heel of the American working class, and its failure to politically break with the Democratic Party. So we're fighting for an independent political movement of the working class against bourgeois politics as a whole in the United States and internationally.
Yeah, that's a good segue into a question I had. Just when it comes to the kind of divide between, what you're talking about, which is a real transformation into a whole, new socialist age versus the capitalist age we're in, which versus kind of the tweaks around the edges of a Bernie or an AOC. And, we've talked to progressive Democrats on this podcast, people that are running for Congress kind of in the vein of AOC, as well as the more, the Green Party members. We've talked to Howie Hawkins and Angela Walker, who are proposing a full platform of eco-socialism, which would, like I said, transform our current system of capitalism into a more socialist system. And one of the biggest points of divide between these two camps is, the Green New Deal, which was introduced as a piece of legislation in 2016, kind of on the as a Jill Stein platform's approach to climate change. Like I said, an eco-socialist transformation. It's since been co-opted in a sense by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Democrats into a more watered down, as the Greens have put it, version of their Green New Deal. What's your opinion on the Green New Deal, and do you think it needs to go further, or do you think it, in its current sense, is a good place to start?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the Socialist Equality Party is a revolutionary party. Our orientation is towards the development of the class struggle in the United States and throughout the world, and the building of a socialist movement which aims to conquer state power. We're talking about a socialist revolution in the genuine sense, not the political revolution of Bernie Sanders, which was directed at the Democratic Party, but a revolution. And I think that, we're in a revolutionary epoch. There is enormous social discontent. The virus has just exposed how rotten is the capitalist system. And there is mass social anger. And the class struggle, which has been suppressed for so long, is beginning to now erupt again. And so our orientation is towards the development of a mass movement in the working class and a revolutionary movement. If you take the question of the Green Party, and this is why I wanted to preface it with my response with that point,
Mm-hmm.
The Green Party is still a capitalist party. It works within the framework of the political system. They have various, reform measures. But I would say the difference between the Green Party and the Sanders or the DSA, Ocasio-Cortez, is far less than what separates, say, the Green Party from, and all of these political forces from Marxism. and from the perspective advanced by the Socialist Equality Party. Because we're not talking about, I mean, there's not going to be a sort of reform of the existing social and political system, either in a tepid way or in a more radical way. No, it's not a question of sort of attempting to, implement such measures without confronting head on the control of the corporate and financial oligarchy over all of social and political life. I'm not sure if that gets to your question, but I think the Socialist Equality Party, we have a sort of, in a sense, different orientation from, whether you're talking about the Green Party or the DSA, Socialist Party USA. Of course, Hawkins and Walker are members of the SPUSA. They all operate within the framework of the political system, and they're not oriented towards the development of a genuine mass revolutionary movement in the working class.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The SEP website says that, quote, the essential precondition for the implementation of socialist policies is the conquest of political power by the working class and the establishment of a worker state. What you've pointed out is something that the, Bernie Sanders campaign or the, Green Party isn't necessarily speaking of doing, establishing a worker state. How do you envision that worker state emerging, and what steps, do you think the left should be taking to move productively in that direction?
Well, first of all, just, our heritage, the Socialist Equality Party, we're part of the International Committee of the Fourth International, which is an international movement. The Fourth International was established in 1938 by Leon Trotsky, the co-leader with Lenin of the Russian Revolution. So our perspective is rooted in the traditions of Trotskyism, of revolutionary Marxism, Russian Revolution itself, which was betrayed by Stalin and Stalinism, the rise of a right-wing conservative nationalist bureaucracy in the Soviet Union. But that's the type of movement that we are speaking about. But I think that, how is such a movement to develop? Well, or you say the next stage. I mean, I think that the orientation really has to be towards the development of the class struggle. We say in a recent statement that the question is not following the arithmetic of the election, but the logic of the class struggle. It's not a question of, whether Biden and Trump. I mean, Trump is pursuing a strategy of, fascist incitement. That's very clear. The Biden campaign is, run on the most right-wing basis possible. But that's the sort of conflict within the ruling class, within the state. The orientation of socialists has to be towards the development of social movement in the working class. That means, a real orientation to the class struggle. What is happening in the factories? What are the conditions in the factories, among auto workers, among meat packers, among Amazon workers, and developing a program and policy which is aimed at encouraging the class struggle. The working class has to intervene independently into this. It can't be sort of its orientation can't be towards the election or towards the political system. It has to intervene with its own methods and its own program. And the methods are the methods of class struggle.